And that's a similar way. There's a strange argument that's made amongst um some Latinxes that is which is you can't be indigenous because you're born outside of an indigenous community. In that way, you're appropriating indigenous culture by doing what you're doing. But in a similar vein, you could say, and it's a very racist argument. Like, and I don't mean that to be hyperbolic. It is actually very, it is highly discriminatory, because that standard does not, that standard wouldn't apply. That standard would be completely alienate. That would completely alienate any immigrant group from their own communities. You could say that from someone who's from any other group, saying you were born in the U.S. You were born outside of your home country, and for that reason you can't actually be Asian, you can't be black, you can't be not, you can't even be Latin American in that sense, because
Right.
maybe you were born in the suburbs, or maybe you were born in a white community. To say that, it would be similar to, you can't be black, you were born in a white neighborhood. It's absurd.
Right.
That's a
Yeah. Exactly. Or I even take it a step further. I'm like, with the black thing, I'm just like, okay, well, black people don't speak an African language. They don't have African names. They don't know what African tribe they come from. They didn't grow up in an African community. Does that mean that they're not black anymore?
and they're able to create new black identities, philosophies, cultures. But that type of mentality creates a very violent view of indigeneity, and one that repeats colonial aspects of indigenous peoples are always, you can't be indigenous, which implicitly plays into the idea that indigenous peoples are will always disappear, which is helpful for colonizers, because the less indigenous peoples there are, the less problems there are of, oh, we need to quell indigenous peoples who keep questioning our nation states, or, oh, these indigenous peoples keep making claims to land, and they're right because they've existed here from time immemorial. And that, but it is a very, and it's a very, and it's disheartening because it comes from a progressive community that is trying to do its best. They're trying to say your personal experiences um are what matter. Those personal experiences are very much true, but there's also the collective memory, which is what goes into your own ethnic identity. Literally, you can't, like, being a Bolivian means you have a certain view that you partake in the national history of Bolivia. If you don't have that collective memory, there is no Bolivian, which means that if you're only working on your own personal identity, you can't, if you take it to a logical extreme, you literally can't be part of any community. You can't be part of a national community, because you're just an individual. And
Right.
that creates a problem for every racial, ethnic, social group. And it's a very problematic one, and it has racist implications when you say that to indigenous peoples. They just don't know that because somehow they haven't met indigenous peoples who are willing to argue against them on that.